as of the 14th of April 2016, 67% of those polled say that it's likely Donald Trump will be the Republican presidential nominee, and 27% consider it unlikely. So that is a significant bump from half to over 2/3. So I have spoken very scathingly about voting in the past. In my defense, all of the people who sought political office that I'd ever seen in the past or read about in history in general were bought and paid for by special interest groups, by the lobbyists, the corporations, the military-industrial complex. They'd all got their fingers on the strings of the candidates, making them do the dance and pretend to represent the people's interests when they were simply getting the people's votes in order to sell the wealth and future and freedom and blood of the people to these special interest groups. So, given that candidates that I'd always seen in the past specifically had and were controlled by special interest groups at the expense of the voters, there was good reason to not just be cynical but realistic about the fact that human beings respond to incentives and that everyone you could vote for was specifically against your particular interest in general. So that was then, this is now. I am always perfectly willing to be proven wrong by reason and evidence. You're not much of a thinker if you hang on to your position, even in the face of contrary evidence. Donald Trump has come along. He's self-funding his own campaign. He is media savvy. He is smashing down the last remaining rotting pillars of any public's trust and faith in the mainstream media. In America now, trust and faith in the mainstream media sits at 6%. 6% still, 6% too high, but we're still working to help that number edge its way downwards so that we can actually have a rational conversation without the mainstream media screaming its Tourette's stuff into our faces. So this is a new phenomenon. And when something unprecedented comes along, we must absorb the new information if we are to be honorable and decent and empirical and rational thinkers. So here comes a guy, unbeholden to special interest groups, who's willing to do that which is unpopular, who's got enough media savvy to take on the mainstream media and repeatedly win. That is remarkable. That is unprecedented. And frankly, that is fascinating. So, this is the test. Everyone always said, don't like the system. Don't like the system. Get involved, get into the system, and change it. Okay, this is the test. This is the Rubicon. This is where the rubber can meet the road. Because here's a man striding in to want to change the system, to address issues that Republican voters have been crying out to be addressed for decades. Illegal immigration, government control, government hyper-regulation, the loss of jobs, the catastrophic carving out of opportunities for the middle class, for everyone and anyone in America, massive national debts, the fact that a third of Americans need permission from the government to get a job in their chosen profession. Somebody's coming along saying, I'm going to deal with these things, and I'm not beholden to special interest groups, funding my own campaign. And I'm not afraid of the media. I'm not afraid of saying that which is unpopular. And he's winning. Astonishing. Astonishing. So here we see a man coming in to change the system, and here we see how the system fights back. How the system fights back. System is not a passive thing that you just go in and change, like putting on a new jacket. It's like wearing a lion. The lion may have something to say about it. So, based upon the voting trends, this is how it works. I'm going to assume that the people in charge of the Republican Party, at least to some degree, recognize that they might actually want a party in the future as well and may bow to Donald Trump. If he gets close to the number, the 1237 that he needs, that they'll just say, fine. But if they ditch both Cruz and Trump and elevate somebody else, they're not going to have a party. They're simply not going to have a party. Then the addict and his wife says, you take one more drink, I'm leaving you. One drink, out she goes. So if the will of the people in the Republican Party is respected, Trump's going to win the nomination. And if Trump doesn't win the nomination, well, that's not patricide, which is killing your father, but particide, where you kill your political party, because that will be it for the Republican Party. Not just for a couple of years, not just for a generation. That will be it, in my opinion, for the Republican Party. So we are witnessing somebody coming in and trying to change the system, who has more resources and savvy and charisma and speaking ability and sense of humor and support. You can't design somebody better able to come in and change the system than Donald Trump. Is he going to be able to do it? Well, if not, who's going to come along? A slightly taller person? I mean, this is not going to happen. So either Trump's going to win this nomination, or we are truly witnessing the death of democracy and the death of the republic that it pretends to serve.